Welcome to God's Way, YTVY. I'm Adolphina Shephard. This is my co-host Thomas Knights Templar.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the show.
Well, I've been missing a few shows, and I'm glad to be back.
Just a few?
Just a few.
Mm-hmm.
And tonight marks a big celebration because we are actually on season 13, episode 1. And as usual, we have a fabulous show lined up for you. We have two fabulous guests. Now, you've met Shelley before, and Shelley Shayner, and this is Richard Braconi. Okay, in a minute, I'm going to ask them to tell them a little bit about themselves. And so we'll start with Shelley, since she's used to how we do things. So how about you start
Not putting
first?
you too much on the spot, is it?
No.
Tell them a little bit about yourself.
Well, I do a lot of things. I'm an author, an artist, and an intuitive. I read tarot cards and do Reiki healings. And recently I've gotten into soul portraits, where I look at people and I sense their energy and I get images and I'm starting to paint them. I'm also working on a children's book, getting that published. So I do a lot of different things. I like fairies, I like angels and all that good stuff.
That's good.
Okay.
So now we'll turn it over to Rich. Rich, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Wow. I'm a retired undercover narcotics detective. Also as a police detective for a while, had my own martial arts business. I'm self-taught and self-learned in being a spirit medium and also a spiritual mentor. I have my own business right now that I provide spiritual services called Expanding the Presence. I'm currently about to publish a book called Being More of God that's set to debut in October on Amazon.com.
Oh, wonderful. And in fact, he has a copy here. Isn't that a beautiful cover? It's him.
Come on, that's kind of cool. I love
I
the
know. I
fact
think
that,
it's really cool too. I really do. I think that was a great picture. Now, so this is coming out in October, you say, huh?
Yes, it's coming out in about probably like 3 weeks.
Oh, that's cool. Well, I'm sure we'll be able to find that on Amazon, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So we'll keep a watch out for that. So you want to tell us a little bit about what you wrote in the book?
Yes. Primarily, it's about a self-discovery on my end. I was in my 40s. I was depressed. I was by myself, tens of thousands of dollars in debt. I was divorced, and I was unhappy. And so I kind of questioned the philosophy that I was given by my parents and by society and by my schooling. And I dove deeper. Does God really exist? Do I really have a spirit? Is there a communication? Does love really matter? Or does it matter if I don't live a loving life?
Well, that's a complete opposite from like being an undercover cop. You know what I mean? I mean, that's such a different lifestyle and what you're involved in. High stress, high pressure,
Well,
right?
The whole questioning of who you are, what you're supposed to be doing, and everything else like that you were doing, that's what saved you from depression. Because you would have went into a tailspin if you would have went the other way.
Correct.
So that was a good thing.
Correct.
I'm glad to have you here.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Come back again.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, you're absolutely right about that, though, because I've noticed that when I'm just in the flow, so to speak, myself, people always ask me how come I'm always happy for the most part. And that's why I'm in the flow with the spirit, like that stuff that they talked about with Yoda, the force is real. You know what I mean? It really is.
It is.
Yeah, it's real, and people don't really get it,
When you see yoga helps you quiet the mind, helps you focus. It's like martial arts, it's the same thing. Helps you focus and keeps you centered. So at that point, when you're quiet, your mind is quiet, you can do these things. You can get in touch with spirit. You can know who you are. You know what I mean? And it's when your mind is all over the place, like a ping pong ball in a garbage pail, you know what I mean? That's when you have like scrambled eggs for brains, because you have too many things going at one time.
You think that I said yoga, didn't you?
No, well, I don't know what you said.
I said Yoda. I said Yoda.
You said Yoda?
Yoda.
You mean that big-eared little puppet that runs around?
Yeah, the force,
Use the force, huh?
Yeah, use the force.
And she only drinks coffee. Yes.
No, it's you. But anyway, that's funny, Tommy.
Okay, I was going with something that sounded real.
Oh, come
Yoga.
on. No, but I mean, I do love yoga, and you're totally right. It's just sometimes we have these moments where we misunderstand what we said, and it just,
And we're sitting
this
next
is
to each
perfect.
other.
This is perfect.
You gonna give me that hearing aid for Christmas?
Yeah, like this
Okay.
is after 6 years together,
Wow.
going on 6.5 now, right? Oh, that was adorable. I love that.
Well, let me ask you something, Richard.
Yeah.
When you got into who you are now,
Yeah.
okay, how did you know that medical intuitiveness is part of what you do? How did you know that aspect of it? Did you just like see somebody and say, oh no, that person has something wrong with his back or something like that? Did it just come to you by spirit, or did you have to focus in on something like that?
Yeah, that's a great question. What I share with people is this was an endeavor that I was taking to open myself up to the truth. And the first step that I took was understanding there was 2 different ways I can receive knowledge. And so I would think about things sometimes, and I would try to come up with an answer by assuming a bunch of reasons was going to produce that answer for me, or the right answer. And then there was times where I knew things, I felt things here.
Yeah.
And so I said, is this a communication? Is this my spirit? Because it's not me thinking. And is this a communication that I can enhance and grow? So I became a student of learning how to have more moments where I just knew information. And the first thing that happened to me, what I considered being connected to a philosophy that was educating me about how love is a communication and a power that equally affects everybody's life. The second thing that happened is I started seeing medical imbalances in people, but I had no idea what it was happening or what was it. It actually frightened me. And when I started validating it all, I just watched the truth come out. Yeah. So then I became a student of all of it, and I started doing my part. I said, well, because I have no understanding of anatomy, if I understand the anatomy better, if I study it, am I going to have a better communication where I know more specifically what's wrong with people? Because at first it was just generic. And it all just unfolded. It just got better and better and better. And then I started talking to people on the other side. But I thought I was crazy. Yeah, I was skeptical of the whole thing because I didn't learn that growing up. It wasn't a philosophy that I was taught to listen to your spirit.
It's so anti-establishment.
Yes.
You know what I mean? A lot of people want to develop psychic abilities and all of this thing because they think it's really cool.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
But they don't realize that it's really work. And they don't realize that it is not so you can be like Miss Cleo on TV.
Correct.
This is something where you're here on this earth to use your gift to help people.
Yeah.
All right? And that's just it. I mean, we've talked about this a lot of times, Sis and I, that when somebody has a problem being healers, we see it, we just heal it without them even knowing it. But if they know if we was to say it to them, they're going to claim it. And once they claim it, they own it.
Correct.
So that's why we personally don't do that, all right? But we, if we see something that's wrong with somebody, they have an affliction, we'll get rid of it.
It was cool because one of the first things I had to do was to learn how to surrender soul ownership over my life. To realize, we were talking about this before, to realize I'm actually in a coexistence with higher wisdom and a divine love. And I was severing myself from it. I would think too much and I would prevent myself from being influenced by it. And all spirit communication is based on being inspired with knowledge. And so I learned how to enhance that hidden communication, where now it's an everyday thing. But it's just like you said, it's a communication that can grow, but you also have the power of saying like, hey, I don't want to apply it here, I don't want to participate in it. And I think that has a lot to do with free will. We were given the free will to choose for ourselves.
Yes, to either accept your gifts or not. The problem is in this society, all right, children that are born with ability right off the bat.
Yeah.
Okay, and they're told, "Oh, you don't have an imaginary friend," or you really didn't see that. There's no monsters in your room.
It closes down their third eye.
It closes down their third
Yeah.
eye, plus
Yeah.
all the fluoridation and bromides in your water and food. Okay, also encrusts your third eye.
Calcifies it, right?
Calcifies it. All right, and your pineal gland. I mean your pituitary. All right, so it does do that. It chokes it off from its ability to help you have your, people call it ESP, people call it a lot of different things.
Yeah.
But it's your ability to connect to God.
It's a natural communication that we were taught, the way I see it. It's a natural communication we came into this lifetime with, and then we learned to get away from it. We actually severed that communication because we're taught to think all the time and use our brain to access higher wisdom and universal truth, and it just wasn't created for that. Only your spirit was.
The heart is the gift, and the spirit is the gift. The mind is a tool.
Yeah.
The thing to do is you have to connect the heart, the brain with the heart, and I see you already done that, and probably all four of us here, because that's the only way you can get to that spot. And another thing I want to point out is that most likely what's happened is you have remembered, because you are remembering gifts you honed in the past, because if you didn't, you wouldn't be this gifted. You know, it's a learning thing, and it takes sometimes lifetimes and lifetimes and lifetimes to learn this kind of stuff, and it was just buried. So basically, you're kind of remembering who you are.
Yeah, well, you know, I agree with you, but I also want to say it's, I've learned that making a sincere, willful effort is important.
Oh God, yeah.
And when I mean sincere, meaning that I couldn't, if a higher wisdom really exists, if a God really exists, a universal God of love, I couldn't say like, hey, I was making a sincere effort when I really wasn't. They were going to know it.
Yes.
And so inside that way, I learned how to make a sincere, willful effort on my part. And it all had to do with faith. I just put more faith in the communication of my spirit rather than what my brain was telling me. And it grew.
It's also the word disciple, because you have to be disciplined in your pursuit of this. It is not a one and done, it's an everyday pursuit. And this is something people don't understand. Like, they'll go to a psychic class and suddenly they think they're a psychic. You know what I mean?
Well,
but they don't know universal laws, you know, or they
And
don't, you know what I'm saying?
Universal law. And like you were saying, that you were receiving, you had the choice of whether to choose to keep it or not to.
Correct.
Right.
All right. When we did it, we kind of surrender our free will, because our free will is in benefit of mankind. So we are on like an angelic realm that we do this. Okay. When you doing a medical reading for someone.
Right.
Okay. You're also looking into not only their afflictions, but you're receiving their soul their soul image.
Sure.
Okay, and that helps you to use your third eye to see where the problems are. You wouldn't be able to do that if you didn't once or twice or many times in past lives reconnect to who you really are. You're not Rich Braconi. You're a son of God.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And these are children of God out here. And those who are in the audience and those who are home are all children of God. But you've been taught that you have to be in a congregation in order to have fellowship.
Yeah, we're all raised that way, right?
We're all raised that way.
Yeah, we're
you know
raised that
what?
way.
You know, fellowship is any place we're together, two or more, and talk about God.
I
That's
was
fellowship.
actually told to leave the church, because I was told that out here is the church.
That's right.
Out here is the church. The church, you know, many times, there's a lot of good people in the church, but it kind of limits you.
When
And
you-
it doesn't,
yes.
you know, it's the whole
It
world.
stagnates. you.
Yes, it
It stagnates your growth for control
Yeah.
of the population. That's what it's about. And that's in every single one of the organized religions.
Correct.
The basic thing is to keep what you have under wraps and don't let it get away from you.
Right,
because then
right.
you lose this.
Right.
All right.
Now, Rich, when you do a reading, do you see images? Do you hear people tell you things? How do you get your information?
It's been a progress. So again, I'm self-taught in all this. So as I was going along, thinking I'm crazy on many, many occasions, the first thing started happening to me, I get bits and pieces of information, but I didn't know how to apply them. So I would just say it out loud. I would do free readings for people. I would meet people at Starbucks. I would meet them at the library whenever there was a room open or some kind of hidden, because I was a student of this, and I just wanted to validate, is there really a communication of our spirit? And if so, I wanted to make an effort to be part of it and to grow it. And so inside of that way, I would get bits and pieces, and I would say, okay, how's that make sense? And then they would tell me. And then it went to, okay, I'm starting to pick up on what I feel is a female essence. Say your mom's passed away. And then I would go on from there. Now I can actually see them. They walk around.
The beings.
But right, you can actually see the presence of the people walking around, and they tell you a story. But you can also not be part of the conversation. So a big part of it was me learning how to engage in a conversation and then how to disengage from the conversation. So I learned that I had this power to get involved in a conversation. So it started off with bits and pieces of information. They were really subtle, they were really quick, and I had to pay attention to them.
Yes.
And I had these 4 tests. I had these 4 tests that I would go by on how I realized it was a spirit communication. 1, it had to be information that I felt and didn't think about. I had to sense it here. 2, it had to be knowledge that I got inspired with. I had to say, like, okay, that didn't come from me. I don't know where it came from, but I got inspired with the knowledge. 3, I had to feel like it was based on something loving. I had to feel like it was based on a greater good. And the 4th one was that when I received the information, it had to resonate a sense of love inside of me. Yeah.
It's a good test.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so as long as it passed those 4 tests, and then, you know, from there, I just kept on growing on it. And then eventually I started to realizing this is just a hidden communication. Nobody educated about me,
No.
but everybody has it. They have a gut instinct, they have a feeling. And if you just spiritually contemplate what you're personally experiencing, you'll be open, you'll get connected to what is considered universal truth. A knowledge that is universally truthful to everyone and affects everybody's life in an equal way, like love, like the communication
Well,
of
love
love.
is the prime directive.
Yes.
The prime directive is to love everyone as God loves you. You know, and the second one is to serve your fellow man. All right? And we are each other's keeper. We are all connected. We are all soul groups, all soul family, and we are all human. Okay? And there was somebody who was saying, I was
Not everybody.
about the ancestry, that everyone on earth is related to everybody else. If you go down your line, you're over the millennia, you're related to everybody.
Right, correct.
You know, that's why I crack up when they do these DNA testing and says, oh, I didn't know I was from Brazil, I had Brazilian blood, or I'm an American Indian, or I'm this, that, the other. I always thought I was Italian, you know, but this is what happens. You
Correct.
find out, and this is because of how many people you're connected to that you don't even know. You know, these family tree, the DNA things and stuff like that, you cannot believe how many people show up. And you're all connected to in past generations.
Yeah.
You know, when I remember seeing a show where Genghis Khan, wait a minute, I'm saying that wrong.
Genghis.
Yeah.
Genghis Khan?
Yeah, wait a minute, well, she got it. What did you
Genghis.
say?
He worked in-
Genghis
he worked-
Khan.
he worked
in the
Okay,
deli on
I'm
Third
pulling
Street.
the information back, okay?
delis.
Anyway, I saw this show, and something like 70% of the people are descendants of him.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Yeah.
I
That's
know,
amazing.
can you imagine that? That's so true. That's so true.
So what they were doing, they were saying like, all right, like say, your mother and father were 2. Then they had a mother and father that had them, that's 4. Then they had a mother and father who had them. And this goes back generation. Before you know, there's thousands.
Right, right.
You know, and then you seem to think like, you know, where do I fit into all of this?
Right,
you know?
right.
And that's, you know, the way we are all connected. The thing we were saying before too is like, as we grow, you know, from being a child and how we're groomed and,
Yes.
you know, educated in a certain way. You can't have an imaginary friend, or you don't really see somebody, you know, like, I see dead people.
Right,
You know,
correct.
that kind of thing, you know, because there's our children that do.
Sure.
Oh,
you know,
yeah.
But they
Happens all
have
the time.
nobody to mentor them.
Yes.
Right.
Now it's starting to become a thing with some people who are available are mentoring them, you know, and that's a good thing because it brings them along. It doesn't make them stand out as being odd or weird, and you know, when they're in school and chastised by other children, you know, because they have an ability. And this is very real.
You know, there's something I learned, you know, during this, I mean, there's a lot of things I've learned during this process. My whole philosophy about life has shifted and changed, transformed. One of the things that I see people, and I don't look at people on the outside anymore. Everybody's different. Our eye color, our hair color, you know, everything's different about us. if you look at people on the inside, everybody has the same level of wisdom, or has the ability of containing wisdom and love. And I always see people as different levels of wisdom and different levels of love. So it sees people equally, just different levels, but it's still an equal ability that everybody has to rise it. So now I see people not as good or bad. You're either spiritually learned or you're spiritually unlearned.
Oh, that's a good way to put it.
And so, right, so we get away from the labels and we get away from that good bad thing, and we just look at, oh, you have the potential of growing much more, or I have the potential of growing much more in love or universal truth, which is wisdom to me.
That's true. For me, it's the closer you move to God, the closer you move to love, the closer you move to the light.
Yes.
And anything that's less than that is moving towards the dark. I won't call it evil, it's just moving away from God.
Yeah, yeah.
All right, so, anything of that one, huh?
That's a good one, my dear. Very good.
Kiss me right here.
Oh, I miss
She's
you. I
been
haven't
gone
seen
for a
you
couple of
for
months.
3
Give me a
months.
break
That's
already.
true. I haven't seen him
It's
for
a
3
PG
months.
TV show. All right.
So now, Shelley, let's talk to you a little bit about this soul portrait you're doing.
Okay.
And show what's her portrait of you and see what.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, this is when I had longer hair.
And carry the
Can you
staff.
zoom in on it?
So Tom and I were talking, and I just, my third eye's pretty open, so I just saw this vision of a man with long white hair, a beard, and a staff. And I said, Tom, this is what I see. He goes, yeah, that's me. I'm Moses. I'm like, oh. And then I said, you know what? I think I'll just paint a portrait of it. So I had no idea what I was going to do. I just know I wanted to use color. And so I started painting it.
You
And
realize that you tapped into my favorite things. The color combination there is of the violet ray. And that is Archangel Zachiel, who brought me in, and he will bring me out. And that also is the violet flame, and the white diamond flame is in there too. Then another thing that's coincidental in this painting is that when I was a child, there was a 60s TV show called The Time Tunnel. And if you look at this, and if you remember the show, look at this cylindrical thing. It looks just like the time tunnel, like the show. Well, of course, it was in black and white, but you can't see the color. But it was interesting that way. And I looked at it and said, you picked up on something that I loved, was that show. And then I picked up that this is actually not only a depiction of Moses, but a depiction of Merlin, because I have Excalibur, the sword. That's my sword of healing, of clearing, of everything. And it's ignited with the violet flame and the diamond flame. So does Sis have one? You have one?
Do you have a sword?
I need one.
we told you a new sword.
Yes. Ask and you
Well, you're
will
an
receive.
ex-cop. You got a gun.
That's
Don't
what
worry
they're
about
saying.
it.
Ask and you shall receive.
I know. And I was talking to Shelley about this, and I was channeling information that was for her. And I told her you should be doing soul portraits. I said, look at my aura, my soul, and paint what you see. And this is what she saw. Now I showed this to a bona fide artist too, who does a lot of different things for Hollywood people and all that kind of stuff. And he thought this was excellent.
Well, you do illustrations normally anyway, right?
Right, yeah, I
Because you-
do. Well, this is like kind of like free form for me because I'm very highly rendered and tight. So I actually have a Bachelor of Arts in Illustration. So I can draw, make you look exactly like a photograph, So, but for this, like I didn't have 50 hours. I thought, well, I got to get this done. And what it did is it freed me up to just like go with the color. I didn't want to think about it. I didn't want to get in my mind.
Yeah.
I wanted to get in my,
Very good.
thank you, my
Yes,
soul,
yes,
So that's what I did, and it was, I enjoyed it because it felt like I was immersed in it with that energy, and it was just amazing how I didn't think. I just let my hand and be guided, and I didn't know what I was going to do, and it just all came together, and I was like, wow, look at that.
Would you say that you got inspired?
Very.
And it's so cool that inspiration is based on the communication of love. That's
Yes, it is.
exact, they work in harmony with one another. So when you wanted to satisfy a sincere, loving need on Tom's part by doing something that represents the truth about him,
Yes.
you got inspired with that truth.
I
But you
did.
quieted your brain and you showed faith in this, and that beautiful picture came out.
There you
See that
go.
Go
picture
you,
there?
go you.
And
Thank you.
that
There's a
is-
camera here.
That
Yes,
is
yes.
beautiful. It is. It is
Now,
really a beautiful.
those out there in the
picture.
audience, is it Tom or is it Memorex? Yes? All right, I just made that part. That's fine.
Anyway.
But you
Anyway,
know, I
Shelley.
think this is excellent because now you're actually seeing people's souls and you're able to paint them, which is wonderful. And I've had them done for many years sporadically from different artists who were also clairvoyant. And I mean, I love it. That is so beautiful.
Look-
And
Look-
that's your first try at
First
that,
try,
right?
yeah.
Well, look at this. She has colors of Saint Germain, colors of Zacchaeus.
Right.
And she also has Michael in here depicted in the blues. Okay? And she has a little bit of a silver here. That's Archangel Uriel who was in there. So you captured a lot.
Thank you.
Captured a lot.
Are you going to continue to do these?
Yes, yes.
Yeah,
That-
because I want you to do one for
Okay,
me.
you're good.
because that was channeled to me
Yes.
I
for
know.
her.
I
that
know.
she has to be doing this.
Yeah.
Oh, well, that's wonderful because, you know, I remember when you were on before and we were talking about the fairies and the gnomes and the tree spirits, and you had drawn a tree and the fairies about it and the tree. Wait a minute, maybe tree. We were
A tree. I did a tree
two
spirit.
different
I showed
shows.
a tree. Yeah,
tree spirit,
Yeah,
right?
I brought that in. Yeah.
And then we also did fairies.
Right.
Yeah. So I mean, you're quite a good artist.
Thank you. Yeah, I do both tree spirits and fairies, and you know, I actually did see a fairy the other day in my house.
Did you a big one or a little one?
Well, I took up this new thing of canning. I started canning. So I made strawberries and peach jam.
I had the pickles.
Pickles.
The pickles were excellent. They were
So,
good.
don't ask me why. I just started, you know, I live in the Garden State. You know, we have a big garden, so I started making all this stuff. But I would do it late at night because I didn't realize how long it would take. So I was making some peach jam. It was about 2:30 in the morning.
Oh my God.
And I saw this thing fly through the apartment and land against the wall, and I thought it was a big moth. And then when I went to go look at it, it wasn't there. And I said, oh, I knew it was a fairy because I have this tree branch up on my wall that has all these fairies hanging in it. But I actually saw it, so I was very happy with my physical eyes.
Coolest thing.
That was just beautiful, you
And a
know.
week later, she found out she had a bat in the bedroom. I don't know.
That's what it was.
Just joking. No, I get it.
You know what I'm saying?
Oh,
So,
yeah.
like I could, because I've always heard of people that could see them. Now I can sense things, you know, or I can see things if I close my eyes, I get visions, but not with my physical eyes. So that was like, I thought it was great.
Well, the veil is thinning, my dear,
It
so
is.
we're
Yes,
going
it
to
is.
all be able to see
Ruth,
much more.
I keep on hearing something telling me, tell you that as you do, to do automatic writing. I don't know why, but they're saying that you should have a pad and be doing automatic writing.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
That was a public service announcement. Okay. All right. So maybe you'd like to maybe practice that. Try that.
I will.
He
I will.
probably wrote
Thank
this
you.
whole book doing automatic writing. I
Did
mean,
you?
I know when I wrote my books, I sat down at the computer, you know, it just came right out, you know.
Well, I think that's exactly what Tom was saying, you know, and I agree with you that this book is based on what personally happened to me, where I started from
catharsis is what
nothing.
it is.
Right, and it just shows I documented everything along the way and just recorded the whole thing. And so that's exactly what it was. I would
See, I
just
can be
write down.
serious when I want to be.
I would just write down all the information that was being shared with me, and I have hundreds and hundreds of pages of it.
Can you give us a story from the book you want to share? Something that happened?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
You know, and they go into different degrees. So they started off very subtle, and then they grew into like just what I consider to be personal miracles, meaning that things that I couldn't make happen in my life by myself. It was divine intervention. It was a way that my life was unfolding, where I kept on getting connected to experiences that were loving experiences. I've learned that we don't have to suffer in life. It depends on your choices.
That's right.
We can learn from unloving experiences, but we don't have to have a life that's based on unloving experiences. We can learn from loving ones too. So it all depends on
I
the
agree with you.
source
Keep in
of
mind
wisdom.
Your
Right.
job background.
Yes,
All right, you worked with the scales of the scales, you know, in narcotics and things.
yes.
You know, so you were working around very low energy.
Oh yeah.
All right, and then when you're retired, I guess, or put you in some kind of depressionary state.
Yeah.
And you feel there's got to be something better for me.
Yeah.
And that allowed you to connect before you burn out the other way.
Yeah.
Which is good. Which is
That's a
good.
total flip-flop, really.
it is. It
That's a
is.
total flip-flop.
Well, you know what's interesting is when I was doing my job, it was happening right near the end when, like a couple years before I was ready to retire. So I used to go to work in this peaceful state, this state of oneness, and all my jobs and everything used to work out better. I could actually see if people were carrying drugs, if they had guns on them. I started having
knew that.
visions. Oh yeah, I started having
I knew
visions,
that.
and everything that I touched just worked out better. But it was awesome because it was a way of me demonstrating, can I sustain a state of spiritual peace, quietness, stillness, oneness, while I'm being challenged or being influenced by negative outside sources or people that were unloving in life.
And were you able to
And I was able
maintain
to.
that through the whole day? Because
Yeah.
that is difficult.
Oh yeah.
That is not easy.
It was the next step. You do it in meditation, or people call it meditation, and then you slowly add noise to your surrounding area, and you stay in the same state, and then you learn how to exist publicly like that. But
Yeah.
again, it's all based on showing a faith for the communication of your spirit.
You know, I'll tell you, most often when I go out anywhere, whether it's to the market or to do errands, people are usually so nice to me.
Yeah.
And I tell these stories, oh, well, something happened here or there, and some other people say, oh my God, that is not my experience, you know what I
No,
mean?
no.
So I think it's just a question of staying in the flow. That's what I call it.
The
I
funny
just
thing is
staying in the
is
flow.
If I go out, especially when I go out of state, this happens. I'm sitting in the diner, and a waitress comes over, and she's taking everybody's orders, like a lot of us, and she focuses on me, and she just starts telling me a life story.
Right.
And because the way I start seeing it, you know,
Yeah.
and I'm over there like this, and Maurice says, what the hell, what's with you? And these people coming over you and telling you the life stories. And
Right.
I don't know. I know what it was.
Right.
But it's funny because, you know, you connect to people like that.
Heck,
Yeah.
since I was a kid on a bus, a little old lady or a man would sit next to me and tell me their whole life story since I was a kid.
You ever notice that sometimes all you got to say to somebody, hey, how you doing? And then they tell you that for 2 hours, okay? And you're like this. You get that knife, it's going after your neck like this because you want to get out of there.
Correct.
You know? Oh, boy.
I'll tell you a quick story. You were asking me for a
Yes.
story. There's a bunch of them, but the thing that comes to mind right now is Michelle, the woman I'm married to. Her father passed away, and it was around Christmas time, and I just started doing all this, maybe a year into it, 2 years into it. And my daughter, who was 12 or 13, walked into the room, and I was talking to Michelle's father, who's in spirit, and he turned to her through me and said, "What would you love for Christmas?" And without batting an eye, she said, "I would like an old antique pocket watch." And we've never heard this before, but he asked her what she would love for Christmas. And she talked about a response of something she naturally loved. He then gave me directions to go and find it. And I thought I was crazy. Nuts. Michelle and I went on this journey. He said, go into New Hope. You're going to go down a main street. There's going to be an abandoned building on your right-hand side. 3 doors down from that abandoned building is a small shop. It's going to be a jewelry shop. They're going to have 1 silver pocket watch. It's going to be $210. Here's what the man's going to look like behind the counter. And then he says that, go there. And we're like, that's, and I'm saying it out loud so everybody can hear it.
Yeah.
Anyway, we take the trip.
I
We
love
follow
that. It's beautiful.
everything. We follow everything that he said. There was an abandoned store on the corner. 3 doors down, there was a jewelry store. Described the guy to the T. We walked in. He had 1 silver pocket watch that was an antique, and for the price that her father said.
Oh my goodness.
That was his gift to my daughter. She opened it up on Christmas Day. She burst into tears. We told her the complete story. We tell it every Christmas now.
Wow.
Oh,
Yeah.
well, hey, what a wonderful
beautiful.
story.
Amazing
and it was
story.
such
That
in
is.
great
That is.
detail.
Great detail.
Why don't we have some people come up and ask Rich a question? or Shelley
Okay,
a
if they
question?
want to. If anyone has a question for Rich or for Shelley, there's
Come
a
on up.
microphone. Come on up. And you can feel
Bob,
free
come
to
on up.
ask.
Come on, Bob.
Yeah,
He wants you.
yeah.
You can adjust the mic. Just pull the handle there.
So what I would like to know is what research that you did to help develop the skills that you now have or are still learning.
It wasn't so much a research, but I can tell you about something that was scientifically done to me just recently.
Oh, cool.
But in a nutshell, it was faith. I just was a student of all this, and I was on an endeavor to discover, do I really have a spirit? Is there a communication? So I literally would do free readings for people. And I would just say, please come over to my house, and I would tell them the truth. Please understand that I'm not going to get it all right. And so I started off getting one thing right out of 10 things, and the people would leave my house. At the time I was in an apartment, leave my house and go, man, he was terrible, I'll never go back to him again, he was rotten. But to me, I got one, and that was my starting. And I just showed faith, and the next time I was looking to get 2, and the next time 3, and the next time 4. So it was a faithful endeavor on my own end to fine-tune the communication that always existed inside of me, and I just let it grow. Now nobody cares about how I did readings before. Now they come to my events because miracles happen there. It's amazing.
awesome.
So it's all about a personal faith in your spirit and the communication.
Great, thank you.
I had this science, just in a nutshell, there is a lady, it's another great story. Anyway, she's a certified therapist, and she also does biofeedback.
Yeah.
And she hooked up a device to my head, and she did a scientific approach, and does something happen to my brain while I'm doing readings, as opposed to when I'm in a normal state. And the outcome was just amazing. When they got the results, they said I reached a delta state that was consistent with somebody in deep sleep. And the physician that she read it with said how he exists and how he talks in this deep delta state while he's doing readings is beyond me. So the scientific evidence is what we're talking about.
That is
That's
cool.
There are
amazing.
things that are measurable, that the brain actually reacts to. When you call in your I am presence, there's something in the brain that reacts, because I am is like the keys to opening up to
Yeah.
speak to God.
Yeah, yeah.
All right. I've said that repeatedly here, that you should learn that during the course of the day, don't say I am with anything negative, any negative connotation to it, because you're actually taking God's name in vain when you do that. All right. But when you connect with I am to God, I am perfect health, I am this, these things occur for you. Now I know you weren't feeling very well, and we did a little I am session, and she's here tonight. So I think that perhaps you should maybe carry a little pad and notice how many times you say I am with something negative after it. And you'll see during the course of the day, it'll be a lot more than saying something positive with it, because you've been honed by life, by this 3D world, to be more onto the negative side. I mean, you put on the news and all you see is an hour, 45 minutes of horror. And they want to take off movies that are scary because they're too violent. The news is worse. I mean, have you noticed that?
Oh yeah, that's one of the
And
reasons
then
I
at,
really
and then at
watch
the very
it.
end, they show you a little boy and a puppy, and the puppy licks his face, and that's supposed to make you feel good?
Well, you know, Shelley and I were talking about this on the way here, and we were talking about how true it is that the word is your wand.
That's
you know,
right.
there's a lot of magic involved here also, and also you're creating when you do this. You know, so you do have to become very conscious of what you say when you do say I am. It's true.
Yes.
It's true.
That's right. The word is your wand, okay? That is basically telling you that what you say has weight, has gravity. You might think you say something and something derogatory about another person, and so what? You know, I'm a real tough guy. You know what? When it comes back and hits you right between the eyes, manifesting some kind of sickness or disease.
You mean the boomerang effect for
That's right.
karma? Well, you know, it
You know
even
what they
says it
call
in
a
the
boomerang
Bible.
that doesn't boomerang?
What?
A stick.
Oh, Tommy.
Well, it's true. It's a piece of wood, isn't
I
it?
know, but it
Fighter
just cracks
catches.
me up. But it even says it in the Bible, the word is all, you know. So if people believe in the Bible, take it for fact.
Well, you have to take in for a fact that it's been butchered over 1,700 times. It's been reinterpreted to fit who's ever trying to control the masses.
Well, the word brought it all into existence.
Well, yeah, but you keep in mind all the books they took out of it. There was a book of Judas Iscariot.
I know.
And in his book, he says, and it says right in his book, that Jesus asked him to betray him because he
I-
loved them so much.
Yeah.
All right? Meanwhile, they portray him like some kind of grim reaper or something, you know? The guy, he couldn't live with the guilt and he hung himself
Yeah.
of betraying his best friend, You know, so there's a lot of things like that, and there's a lot of other stuff. And you know, like I was saying to you once before, if you think that the Holy Grail is a cup, yeah, good luck with that.
What do you think the Holy Grail is?
It's the bloodline of Jesus. And I know this because I'm a Templar Knight, and I was the Templar Knight that escorted Mary Magdalene and the Blessed Mother and the Grail of Jesus to France. And you can follow the course of the Templars. France, they were the first World Bank. And then, after they were all murdered, the ones that escaped went to Scotland. All right, and they had an abbey there. So it's a history. You know, it's a history. You got to know your stuff with
The Roslyn Chapel,
Mhm.
that's what you're talking
yeah.
about. That, in that church, it has symbols from every religion. Goes to show you somebody knows that each religion has a piece of the puzzle. None of them are completely right, but that church put all the symbols together to let us know that each has a piece. Right? That has so many different things in there. And I also think that was portrayed in, what was that book called, or the movie, the Da Vinci?
Da
Vinci Code?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that was very interesting about that whole movie was pretty cool,
Yeah, it was
really.
a good movie. It was a good movie.
Yeah.
You know, it kind of brought this stuff to light. You know, and you know, some people take it with a grain of salt and stuff like that, but there's a lot of truth that came out in that.
Right.
And it was designed to help awaken the masses. All right, because there's a lot of people still asleep, and they just take everything as goes, and they're going to live, function, and die in the 3D world, and it's going to be that for them. And they're doomed to repeat it, and repeat it, and repeat it.
Well, hopefully you learn at least a little bit each lifetime, each lifetime for sure. But Shelley, I wanted to mention, you illustrate books and things like that, right?
Right, for myself, yeah. I
Just for yourself,
for
not for
myself.
others? Didn't
No.
you do Marie's cover?
Oh, yeah, I do, well, I'll do book covers. I do book cover design, graphic design.
I needed you like
Yeah, I
6
know you-
months ago.
Well, the next time.
Actually, I'm happy with this.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it is.
came
It's
out
very
very
good.
nice.
It's very good. Yeah, so, yeah, I do that.
So when you do my book, you're going to make me with
Yeah.
bigger muscles and
Sure, real buff,
jacked,
yeah.
hell of a lot younger.
Yeah,
You know?
I'll give you gray hair, no, black
no,
hair.
that's a great thing. I got that.
All right, black hair.
You know?
Yeah, there you go, like that. I'll put that. That's
I don't
going
know.
on
I think I
the.
look like Leon Russell,
There you go.
the
Leon
piano
Russell.
the piano player there. You know, I don't mind having it. Well, maybe
Yeah,
I would
yeah.
have it. I just died.
Yeah. Well, I'm illustrating my own book that I'm working on, so that's my love right now.
Do you have a title for it?
It's called Agalon.
Outstanding.
What's it called?
Agalon.
What's that stand for? I mean,
It's the mystical world where the set of twins go into. It's about twins and a mystery, betrayal, and intrigue.
oh, interesting. This sounds good.
Yeah, thank you.
Sounds good.
How many books have you written so far?
Well, I've written 2. I have a third half written, been involved in 2 that were with 36 other spiritual world leaders around the world. Each submitted a chapter, which was really pretty cool.
That's amazing.
Yeah, I did 2 of them.
You showed me that.
And and I have a spare book or 2 somewhere of them. Did I give you a copy?
I have a prototype down here.
Okay.
I actually have it with me.
Okay, good. And the also I have a half-written book. I had thought I was going to be writing about the spiritual aspects of cancer. It's only half finished. Now, interesting, I don't know, I'll tell you now. My husband recently crossed over, which is why I missed so many shows. And
We're
through
sorry to
that,
hear that.
yes, thank you, Rich.
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
appreciate that. I had to really fall back on my spiritual training from God to deal with that. And but anyway, one of the things that it has come to me is that the reason that book was never finished is because that was only part of the story. Now the other story is what I've learned through this whole process, which is amazing because, you know, when we drop this envelope, this body, we're
They're
not
out.
dead. We
They're
just
out.
cross through another doorway into another world and do other
Exactly.
things.
But that's why I tell them all the time. I said,
Yeah.
this is not who you are. This is not who you look like. You're a spirit having a human experience. You're not a human having a spiritual experience. It's the other way around. You're a spirit.
Yeah.
And when this body says sayonara, you go on. You go
Yeah.
right back to who you were.
Yeah.
You never leave. Your loved ones never leave you. They go on sometimes for retraining to do other things on the other side, you know. But they come to you to omnipresent anytime you think of them. Today, I'll give you an example. My best friend Fred passed away a couple of years back. And when he passed away, I started to hear him. And everything he would say to me, he would always call me Don Tommaso. And he'd go, Don Tommaso. I could hear him. I could even actually smell the cigars, you know? And that's what he would do. Today, oh, this guy, I never seen anybody can drink this much espresso, like 30 shots a day.
Oh my
Okay,
God.
so look, he didn't die from that.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm over there and I run into his son. Out of the clear blue sky, I run into his son. I pull over, I'm talking with him a while. And I was thinking about Freddie. When I made a turn, as soon as I made a turn, what's in front of me? A coffee truck that's espresso. So I immediately called his wife. I said, Freddie's here. You know, I always say, sitting in the truck with me. Because he was there, he made contact, you know what I mean? All you have to do is think of your loved ones that passed over, and they will be with you like that.
That's true, and I got to tell you what I've recently been learning. Now, this happened actually at my husband's celebration of life
cool.
that I had for him, and I have to tell the story of when Tom was participating in. Years ago, my husband adored the Rat Pack. And I took his head and I had it superimposed on top of one of the Rat Pack guys' body. And it was even with the sign behind it that says The Sands, and I had his name put in there. So I have this at the celebration of life, and Tommy's there. And the funny thing is, he's looking at it, and I'm telling him this story. He says, you know why he loved them so much? I said, well, I know that he had a past life regression where he was in a tuxedo with a martini in his hand, entertaining with a bunch of guys.
Oh, it was Dean Martin.
So,
Okay.
right? So meanwhile, I was telling Tommy this story, and Tommy says, oh, he was an aspect of Peter Lawford. So this is where it really gets interesting, because he comes out with, he says, tell him what you said.
I forgot what I said.
He said, that's right. Well, when you
Just had a
Had
brain
this great
fart, you know?
moment.
Right.
When you're channeling, you forget sometimes what you said. So anyway, long story short, he says, he's an aspect of Peter
Peter
Lawford.
Lawford, yeah, I remember that.
So anyway, so that was kind of funny, because I remember when I had this done, and this was before Photoshop existed. For those youngins, Photoshop did not always exist.
Yes.
So I remember when I put that head on top of the body, I thought to myself, he has kind of the same shaped face, the same kind of body size. And I thought that. And then he's saying he's an aspect, and I put it on Peter Lawford's head.
But you got to understand something. Out of the Rat Pack, Peter Lawford was the only one who couldn't sing.
Yeah. And that,
Steve can sing.
yeah. So meanwhile, he comes to me recently and he says, he's having a good old time over there because he's singing with the guys, the Rat Pack, over there in another dimension. Mm-hmm. He's visiting all his relatives, and he's going to school. So, I mean, he's a busy dude. But he does come and visit me often. And when I think of him or call him, he comes.
he comes.
Yeah. So believe me, they are not dead. They just are not here with us.
Well, when you learn to accept that, I've been to 3 wakes in a week. And by the way, when I was in there, they were all over me. They were touching me and
The
stuff like
spirits?
that. And I was like, that's it.
Yeah,
You know?
the funeral parlors,
Oh,
of course,
man.
there's all kind of
I
spirits
crossed so
there.
many things. They were going.
Yeah.
And once I was sitting, I was over
Wait,
by
you're
the
saying you
staircase.
crossed them over? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Listen, I was going to take them by the hand. Get off of me.
Yeah, because they're
you know?
stuck,
They,
A
they
lot
were
of them are
stuck there.
stuck.
They don't even know they're dead.
Yeah, some of them.
I was passing and passing. If I could pass a kidney stone that fast, it'd be good. They were all going.
Yeah.
But it was an interesting thing. They stopped touching me, by the way. I cleared the place out.
You were telling them, stop touching me,
It
like
was
the
so
Bill Cosby
annoying.
kids, right?
You ever walk into a spider web?
Yeah.
Well, that's what it felt like. I walked into
Yeah.
a spider web.
Oh my God.
And I'm over there. I'm on the staircase. I'm going like this. My wife's looking at me. What's the matter with this? I don't know. I can't tell her. She's not going to go for that. But it was pretty funny stuff. Something
Yeah.
else. We have about 8 or 9 minutes. Anybody else want to ask a question of either Shelley
Because
or
we're going to
or
close
Rich?
out pretty soon.
Come on.
Ladies in the front row over there.
That one there.
What kind of question?
Any question.
What kind of question
You can ask about your health.
You
what
can
he
ask
sees.
about your health. You can ask about your shoe size. You can ask about
It's
anything.
okay.
Tell me you're
Ask
right.
about your
He's on
shoe
tonight.
size.
Her shoe size and her health.
I'm not telling you my shoe size. It's 'cause
Take
it's
it easy.
big.
Don't run.
So,
Don't run.
I am a widow 32 years, all right, and I never dated. So that's one problem. Other, I don't know what that problem is, but my stomach is a big problem. And I've been to 4 doctors, and everybody tells me something different.
And their diagnosis of you.
Yeah.
You want me to look at to see what are you going to join on this?
No, I'll let you do.
All right, give me 1 second. Let me see what's inside of you, what's going on inside of you. Okay. Do you ever find yourself susceptible to pneumonia or bronchitis or a lung problem? You?
They keep saying I have asthma, but I don't feel like I have asthma. I
There's-
take Singular, but
For asthma?
it's supposed to be for allergies.
For allergies, there's definitely a bacteria or some kind of substance that's clogging up here, but it's minor. So that's why I said if you're susceptible to it, that you might get it, once or twice, maybe once a year or once every 2 years. Just keep that in mind. I'm seeing, because when I see imbalances in people, it might not produce side effects yet, physical side effects yet. So, but if I'm getting connected to that, that means it could be something that could be pending in the future for you. Hold on, let me see your stomach. Okay. Oh, wow, okay. It's a combination of things. It's like 3 or 4 different things for you. One is that you have a pancreas that needs to produce more enzymes. 2, your stomach flora. Have you ever had antibiotics?
Not often, no.
Just keep this in mind. The antibiotics can hurt the flora inside of there. So I'm going to suggest that you get more probiotics inside of you. But also too, I'm going to suggest that you juice carrots, maybe a little bit of beets, and
Celery?
and you can do celery for sodium, but you don't have to do it. Mainly carrots and the beets. You're going to see that it's going to start cleaning you out inside. You're going to start going more often, and you're going to see that there's going to be a decrease in gas. Keep on seeing the buildup of gas inside of you. But I think a lot has to do with your enzymes with the pancreas, and also too, you juicing. So remember that when you juice, you get natural vitamins and nutrients inside of you, but that also has live organisms that's going to replace your damaged flora. Keep on seeing damaged flora inside of you. Did doctors ever say anything like that about the damaged flora?
They all said 4 different things. I don't know what the heck they were saying.
Did they ever
Yeah.
check you for H. pylori?
I don't have that. I don't
Have you
think
been
so.
checked for it recently?
He told me stop wasting his time. My doctor.
I'm actually seeing inflammation.
Yeah.
I have a lot of inflammation.
I'm seeing inflammation. That's the first thing that came into me when you.
Okay.
Did you ever hurt your left shoulder? Did you ever damage your shoulder?
This is killing me.
I can see the pain build
Yeah.
up when you're talking about inflammation, but I can see the
Yeah.
left shoulders. And let me just share this with you too. Also too, there's a bunch of deficiencies inside of you, and I know we don't have a lot of time, but there's several deficiencies inside of you, but you're gonna see pain location, like in your shoulder that I'm seeing right now, and you're gonna see other areas too that are gonna start flaring up. Please juice, even if you do it once,
Yeah, I have a
every
juice.
2 or 3 days. Please juice, you're gonna see a difference in your carrots, primarily carrots, and also a little bit of beets.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. Thank
Oh,
you
that
very
was so
much.
nice.
Thank you.
That was wonderful, really.
Thank
You're so good at that. You really are. Yes.
Excellent. Thank you, Dr.
Thank you.
Kevorkian.
Yes.
Okay.
I wish I had more time with her.
Oh,
Okay.
you know, I'll
Listen,
tell you,
we
we
have 3
are.
minutes.
Yeah, we only have a few minutes left, right? What were you going to say, my dear?
I said we only had 3 minutes.
Oh, okay. We only have
I
3
thought I
minutes.
heard it somewhere before.
What are you gonna say? Who's on
Okay.
first?
It's amazing. We're so
Who's on
connected. She says the same thing I
Who's on
do.
second?
I'm telling you. So, in our final 3 minutes, let's wrap this up. Give us an ending, whatever.
Well, I think it's important for people to watch their thoughts, what you're thinking, because that's creating, and what images come to your mind. As we said earlier, your word is your wand, and thoughts are very powerful. They create, and you couple it with emotions. You got a lot of stuff going there. So like Rich had said earlier about having faith, I think that's really important.
Huge.
So I don't have a TV anymore. I don't watch it. It's been a gradual progression of this, and
If
I
get
am
rid of that black
happier.
and white
I am,
TV, huh?
yeah.
Okay.
I'm very happy. Not that I don't watch videos here and there, but it's like the images coming from the TV are just so negative.
Yeah,
And I
just
don't-
coming
and
to
I don't wanna
TV
put
of
them-
being shoved in your throat like
Yeah.
that video game I was telling you about.
Right. So
All right.
just try to,
That's,
keep the images positive, because that's helping you to think positive and create positive and feel better.
Okay.
And
Rich, a minute?
Something I've learned from this endeavor is, well, one of the most important things is, one, there's a coexistence that we were all born into this world with, and we are actually spiritually connected with a higher wisdom. So that's the first thing I want to share. Other thing is, love is a communication. Look at it as divine guidance. What you have a natural love for is not something that you mentally decide on your own. It's something that's a force, it's a power, it's an assertment, it's a passion that's trying to guide you in a certain direction, that if you have the faith to follow it, it's going to produce positive experiences for your life. Thank you.
Okay. We have 1 minute, so let's wrap this up. I'd like to thank our sponsors, Antonio's Pork Store in Tottenville, and Aardvark Pest Control and Great Kills, I was about to say, Great Kills, all right. And I'd like to thank our guests and our studio audience, and our audience at home, and the boys in the booth.
Thank you.
Thank
Boys
you.
in the
Thank
booth.
you.
And our crew.
Yes, our crew, Christine, Tracy, Richie, Doc, Dopey, and no, anyway.
Michelle.
Okay.
Michelle,
Thank you.
Rich's wife.
Oh, Michelle,
Yes,
Rich's wife,
yes,
right there.
Yes.
Okay.
And our audience that's watching us on TV right now, we thank you so much.
And I'd like to thank her for coming back. I was a lost little lamb.
Oh.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
All right.
So we'll see you all next time.
Okay,
And we
say
want to
bye
say
now.
goodbye.
Thank you.
See you next time.
Music maestro.